In 2019, two Boeing planes fell from the sky within just 5 months. The world thought the crisis was over after the investigations, lawsuits, and headlines faded away. But behind factory doors, inside supplier warehouses, and across Boeing's entire production network, the real disaster was only beginning. Before we start the video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this reveal what's really happening behind the biggest companies on Earth, and how small, hidden failures can shake the entire aviation industry. For decades, Boeing was seen as untouchable, a symbol of American engineering, a company trusted by airlines, governments, and millions of passengers every single day. But today, Boeing is facing something far more dangerous than bad headlines. Its supply chain is breaking apart piece by piece, and insiders say the situation is worse than most people realize. The warning signs are everywhere. Airlines are waiting months, sometimes years, for aircraft deliveries. Production targets keep getting cut. Suppliers are struggling to survive. And every delay creates another ripple effect across the global aviation industry. The company that once dominated the skies is now fighting fires on nearly every level of its operation. And to understand how Boeing reached this point, we need to go back years before the recent scandals ever happened. For a long time, Boeing operated differently from most manufacturers. Instead of building every major aircraft component itself, the company relied heavily on outside suppliers scattered across the world. Wings, fuselage sections, electronics, landing gear, interiors. Thousands of parts came from hundreds of different companies operating in different countries. At first, this system looked brilliant. Outsourcing reduced costs. It increased production speed, and it allowed Boeing to focus more on design and final assembly instead of manufacturing every component internally. Wall Street loved it because it boosted profits and kept shareholders happy. But there was one major problem hiding underneath the surface. The more Boeing outsourced, the less direct control it had over quality, timelines, and coordination. And that weakness became painfully obvious during the development of the 787 Dreamliner. The Dreamliner was supposed to change aviation forever. It promised better fuel efficiency, longer range, and revolutionary materials that would make flying cheaper for airlines. Boeing marketed it as the future of commercial aviation. But behind the scenes, the project became a nightmare. Suppliers failed to deliver parts on time. Some manufacturers couldn't meet engineering standards. Others struggled to even build the complex components Boeing demanded. Entire sections of aircraft arrived incomplete or defective. At one point, Boeing reportedly had to buy out struggling suppliers just to keep production alive. The delays became so severe that the first Dreamliner arrived years behind schedule, costing Boeing billions of dollars. But even then, many analysts believed the company would recover quickly because Boeing still had something incredibly powerful: trust. Airlines trusted Boeing. Passengers trusted Boeing. Regulators trusted Boeing. Then came the 737 MAX disasters. After the crashes of Lion Air Flight 610 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, Boeing faced worldwide outrage. Investigations exposed shocking issues involving safety oversight, rushed certification processes, and internal pressure to compete aggressively with Airbus. The damage went far beyond reputation. Factories slowed down, deliveries stopped, airlines canceled or delayed orders. Regulators around the world increased scrutiny, and suddenly every supplier connected to Boeing began feeling the pressure. Imagine being a company that produces specialized aircraft parts almost entirely for Boeing. Now imagine Boeing suddenly cuts production. Your revenue collapses overnight. That's exactly what happened to many suppliers. Some companies laid off workers. Others shut down operations completely. Smaller manufacturers that depended heavily on Boeing faced financial disaster. And once skilled workers leave an industry, they don't always come back. That created a chain reaction Boeing is still struggling with today. When aviation demand exploded again after the pandemic, airlines wanted planes immediately. Travel was booming. Routes were reopening. Passenger numbers were surging worldwide. But Boeing's supply chain wasn't ready. Factories didn't have enough workers. Suppliers lacked raw materials. Critical components were delayed for months, and quality control problems started appearing everywhere. Even something as small as a missing fastener or incorrectly drilled hole could stop delivery of a multi-million-dollar aircraft. And this is where the crisis became truly dangerous. Modern aircraft manufacturing works like a giant synchronized machine. Thousands of suppliers must deliver precise parts at exactly the right time. If one supplier fails, the entire system slows down. Now multiply that problem across hundreds of suppliers. That's what Boeing is facing right now. Some insiders describe the company's production system as fragile and overstressed. Others say years of cost-cutting created vulnerabilities that only became visible once the industry entered crisis mode. And then came another devastating blow. In January 2024, an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9 suffered a terrifying mid-air panel blowout shortly after takeoff. Passengers watched part of the aircraft tear away at thousands of feet in the air. The incident shocked the world again. Suddenly, Boeing faced renewed investigations, renewed scrutiny, and renewed fears about manufacturing quality. Regulators intensified inspections. Production slowed even further. And once again, the spotlight turned toward Boeing's suppliers, factories, and internal oversight systems. But the deeper issue wasn't just one aircraft. It was the growing fear that Boeing's entire industrial ecosystem had become unstable. And inside the aviation industry, many experts believe the real consequences are only starting to unfold. The frightening part is that Boeing's problems are no longer isolated incidents. They're becoming structural problems, the kind that can take years to repair. Because when people hear supply chain crisis, they usually imagine delayed shipments or shortages sitting in warehouses. But in aviation, a broken supply chain creates something much bigger. It affects safety inspections, maintenance schedules, aircraft availability, airline expansion plans, ticket prices, and even global travel itself. And Boeing now sits at the center of that storm. Inside many supplier factories, pressure has reached extreme levels. Companies are being asked to increase production while also meeting stricter quality requirements than ever before. That sounds reasonable on paper, but in reality, aviation manufacturing is one of the most complex industries in the world. You can't simply hire random workers and build aircraft parts overnight. Every technician requires training. Every component must pass inspection. Every process must meet exact certification standards. And when experienced workers retire or leave the industry, replacing them becomes incredibly difficult. Several aerospace suppliers have quietly admitted they're struggling with labor shortages, rising costs, and unstable production schedules. Some companies are operating with thinner profit margins than ever before. Others are terrified of making mistakes because even a single defective component can trigger investigations, grounded aircraft, and massive financial losses. That fear has slowed everything down. And Boeing itself has been forced into a difficult position. The company needs to speed up aircraft production to recover financially. Airlines are demanding more planes. Investors want stability. Competitors like Airbus continue gaining ground globally. But moving too fast creates another risk. If Boeing pushes production aggressively while quality systems are already under pressure, even small failures could become catastrophic. That balancing act is now defining Boeing's future, and the numbers behind this situation are staggering. Commercial aircraft contain millions of individual parts sourced from massive international networks. One disruption in titanium supply, electronics manufacturing, engine production, or specialized materials can affect assembly lines across entire continents. Then add geopolitical tensions, inflation, shipping disruptions, and global manufacturing instability into the mix. Suddenly, Boeing's crisis doesn't look temporary anymore. It looks systemic. Even airlines are starting to adapt their long-term strategies around Boeing's uncertainty. Some carriers are extending the life of older aircraft because replacements aren't arriving on time. Others are shifting orders toward Airbus simply because delivery schedules appear more reliable. And every lost order matters, because commercial aviation is not just about building airplanes, it's about confidence. Airlines need confidence that aircraft will arrive on schedule. Passengers need confidence that planes are safe. Suppliers need confidence that contracts will remain stable. Investors need confidence that production targets are realistic. Right now, Boeing is struggling with all four at the same time. What makes this even more serious is that Boeing isn't just another corporation. It's deeply connected to America's industrial identity. The company supports thousands of jobs directly and indirectly across the United States and beyond. Entire towns and manufacturing regions depend on aerospace contracts tied to Boeing production. So when Boeing struggles, the effects spread far outside aviation headlines. And yet, many aviation experts believe the company can still recover. Why? Because Boeing still possesses something incredibly valuable: scale, engineering talent, and decades of industry relationships. Despite everything, airlines still need Boeing aircraft. Global air travel continues growing. And realistically, there are only two companies capable of producing large commercial jets at this scale: Boeing and Airbus. But rebuilding trust may become harder than rebuilding factories. Trust disappears slowly, then collapses all at once. That's exactly what happened after the MAX crashes. And every new manufacturing issue reminds the world of those past failures all over again. The company now faces enormous pressure to prove that safety and quality truly come before speed and profits. Regulators are watching closely. Airlines are watching closely. Even passengers who barely follow aviation news now recognize Boeing's name for very different reasons than they did a decade ago. And perhaps the biggest irony in all of this is how Boeing's original strategy helped create the crisis. The outsourcing system was designed to make production faster, cheaper, and more efficient. Instead, it created a giant web of dependencies that became harder and harder to control. When everything runs smoothly, global supply chains look powerful. When something breaks, the entire system can unravel faster than anyone expects. That's the reality Boeing is facing today. Not just a manufacturing problem, not just a reputation problem, but a deep industrial crisis that could shape the future of aviation for years to come. And the outcome matters to everyone who flies, because every time a passenger boards an aircraft, they place enormous trust in thousands of invisible workers, suppliers, inspectors, engineers, and systems operating perfectly together behind the scenes. The scary part is that most people only notice those systems when they fail. And Boeing is learning that lesson in the harshest way possible. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden crisis behind one of the world's biggest aviation giants, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more videos.